As you'll recall, earlier this week, Donald Trump and Defense Secretary and Human Sperm Bank Pete Hegseth held a meeting of high-ranking American generals to berate them about facial hair and getting fat. It was some of the worst political theater of the year. For more on that, see our other videos here on the channel. Just prior to that meeting, however, and reiterated during it, came Trump's plans to occupy the city of Portland, Oregon, which he referred to as a war zone. Yes, Trump told the military he wants them to declare war on the American people.
Viewers may remember the unrest and turmoil earlier this year as President Trump ordered members of the National Guard and then dozens of Marines to Los Angeles to protect federal property and personnel during violent clashes, vandalism, and protests in the streets in response to immigration operations. The issue remains a political tripwire, and now the president says he will send troops to Portland, Oregon, and elsewhere, quote, authorizing full force, if necessary, to handle domestic terrorists. There is no timeline for such a development in the Northwestern hub. However, the news triggered a swift and stern response from local leaders.
Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection, there is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city.
This is not a military target. The president will not find lawlessness or violence here. I've been so deeply disappointed to see the footage from a half decade ago recycled and then recycled again.
Portland was the scene of sometimes violent protests over the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis in 2020. According to reports, recent demonstrations have been significantly less volatile and more focused on an area surrounding the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, building outside downtown. Some federal agents have been injured in flare-ups, and a number of protesters have been charged with assault. Portland is a so-called sanctuary city. These places basically limit cooperation with ICE.
Trump is sending troops to Portland with the goal of, quote, doing a number on the city. And we know what this means. He wants to stoke fear and chaos and trigger violent interactions and riots to justify expanded authoritarian control. Let's not take the bait.
And if that's ominous, if it brings up painful memories of Trump's first term, stick around. Like I say, good news and bad news here. In the aftermath of the generals' meeting, and with the federal government shutting down due to Republican stupidity, again, see our other videos for more on that. Trump officially tried to deploy troops to Portland, also claiming that he intends to send the military to Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and a number of other American cities. Troops arrived in Portland late last week, but just as Trump may have thought he was going to get his war on his own people going, the courts had something else in mind. Take a look.
A federal judge in Portland has just ruled in favor of Oregon's request to block President Trump's order to deploy National Guard troops to Portland. The case for a temporary restraining order heard yesterday in Portland. Oregon's Attorney General argued that the call-up violated the U.S. Constitution that limits federal law enforcement getting involved in domestic law enforcement. The federal government countering that there is a danger of rebellion here, so the president has the right to call in the Guard to protect the ICE facility and staff. Now, over at the ICE building in South Portland this afternoon, several rounds of tear gas being used by federal agents against the protesters, many against the idea of National Guard coming in. Our Ariel Salt joins us live there now. Ariel, what are you seeing? And I understand there have been some arrests.
Yeah, so we've been hearing of some arrests. Right now, we're seeing about 100 plus protesters still out here. I'm going to step aside so you can take a better look. For a while, we did see federal agents blocking off the road accessing this area. They have just recently moved back inside of the building. We even saw somebody try to drive their vehicle, a civilian try to drive through the vehicle, through the crowd. Portland police jumping in, stopping that from happening. Now, on the roof of the ICE building, we are seeing federal agents rotating up there, taking a peek down. At one point, I even saw a few people who don't appear to be with the federal agents they were on that second tiered level as well, taking video and making kind of mocking gestures at protesters from above. Now, in the air, you can still see and smell that the remnants of the tear gas and pepper bullets that have happened over the last several hours. Federal agents took several protesters into custody using several rounds of multicolored tear gas against a crowd of hundreds who gathered for a demonstration in front of the ICE facility after a march started the Elizabeth Carruthers.
Yes, the courts came through. So, it's good to know we still have some guardrails, no matter how flimsy, keeping that orange tumor from turning this country into a military dictatorship. On the other hand, the fact that troops turned tear gas on peaceful protesters is a horrifying sign. Like I said, good news and bad news in the story. But here's a silver lining. You know what this reminds me of? 2020 and the justice protests that arose in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. This moment, as with that in 2020, offers a wake-up call to Americans. If it can't happen in Portland, it can't happen anywhere. And the American people will not stand for this kind of encroachment on our cities, our homes, and our lives. In 2020, this attitude helped cost Donald Trump re-election. Now, he's come to a similar point after just 9 months in office. What will this reckoning yield? Needless to say, we'll keep you updated on all the stories coming out of Portland and nationwide as they continue to develop.